I've gone ahead and animated the second half of this skip. So let's just take a look at the legs and the hips and see how that plays. So as you can see, we've got a step and a hop for a total of two skips, one on each foot. Now I'm animating this at 20 frames per skip for a total of 40 frames. But my timeline is 48 frames. I'm looping the first 40. So let's go ahead and move on to the upper body. We're going to work on the spine and the head at this point. So let's go ahead and just turn on the upper body of the character and see where we're at. So you can see we've got this first pose in place, and you can see that, well, she's got a standard extended position for a walk where her feet are apart and her shoulders are mirroring the hips, and this is something that we've covered quite a bit. Now, if we played this with the upper body, you're going to see that, well, we don't have any animation on it except for that first pose. So she's looking kind of like one of those river dance people who don't move their upper body. But we want to move her upper body, so let's go ahead and do that. I'm going to start with the spine. I'm actually going to just turn off the geometry for the arms so that we can see the spine more clearly. So let's just get the flexibility of the spine and the head and just get that whole arc going, and then we can work on the arms last. So this first pose is actually already in place. We already have a key set for it, and that's just our standard extended position. So let's go ahead and move on to the next major pose, which is at frame 5, and that's where she's starting to get ready to take that hop. This is a cushion or an anticipation position. So she really wants to get her body weight fairly low so that she can push it upwards for the hop. So we're going to go ahead and squash her a little bit or compress the spine. So I'm going to go ahead and rotate that spine forward just a bit, something like that. Make sure I set a key for that. So now she's squashing into this. And then she's going to go ahead and push up into this leap. So at this point, I want to straighten the spine out. So she's basically straightening out. And what I'm really looking at here is this line of action. So I want to get a kind of a nice, smooth arc from her neck all the way down to her feet. So something like that. And I'm really just trying to get her into a nice, simple pose here. So once I get that, and I want to make sure that she's also rotated pretty far forward. So again, her hips are going to be fairly square. So her shoulders will also be square at this point. So she'll be pretty much square to the world. And I'm going to go ahead and set a key for that. So now, so she leans into it and pushes off and then straightens up. And now as she sits down, I'm going to lean her back just slightly to give her a little bit more angle there. And go ahead and again set another key, and then we go into our next step. Now our next step is basically going to have this hip forward. So I want to straighten out the spine, and then I'm going to rotate it so that the shoulders are again opposite to the hips. So we can see how we are just rotating it along the vertical axis to get another extended position, which is something we're familiar with from the walks that we've animated. And again, let's make sure that we have a key for that. So now we've got something like this. So she squashes, stretches, and then settles. Okay, so let's do this again. We can do it fairly quickly, and I'm just going to rough this out. I'm not going to be too exact with it. So again, I'm going to kind of square out her shoulders, bend her over just a bit. Make sure we have a key set for that. So again, you can see how this goes. Boom. And then up. So again, we're going to go out, give her a nice arc to her back. Again, we're looking at line of action here. This is very important. So again, we go from straight to squash to stretch. And keep her pretty stretched out here. And then let's go to this last pose here. And this is going to be identical to the first pose, but let's go ahead and just dial that in ourselves here. So I'm going to go ahead and zero this out, straighten her up, And then go ahead and push those shoulders back just a bit so that she has her pose. So this is a little rough, but we pretty much have the essence of it in place. So let's just see what we're getting. We're getting a squash, a stretch, and then another squash and stretch. So she goes like that. And you can see we're getting a lot more bounce out of the skip. So the next phase is to actually start working with the arms, and we'll do that in the next video.